And joining me on the show this morning, Bill Gallo, who is the Seoul Bureau Chief of Voice of America. Thanks very much, Bill, for being with us this morning. What an absolutely horrific tragedy, and it's been a week of horrific aviation disasters across the world. But looking at what happened in South Korea, the worst disaster in South Korean history, at least in the past 3 decades. The black box has been recovered, the flight data recorder, but the exact cause of the incident is still unknown.
Yeah, there's really a lot of questions that remain here. I mean, I think the biggest one as we're thinking about this is how could a bird strike, an alleged bird strike, lead to a malfunctioning landing gear? Aviation experts say that is not typical at all. And then how do the other elements play into this? I mean, there are some confusing elements. Eyewitnesses report seeing some sort of engine explosion or fire on the ground moments before this plane attempted to land. Then there are other questions, such as why did airport authorities not lay sand or some kind of barrier down that would have slowed that plane in its final moments there before it crashed into the wall, which of course is the last question. Why was there a brick wall at the end of a runway? These are all questions that will need to be answered. There may not be a satisfying answer for several weeks or months because that's the nature of how these investigations sometimes go.
Also, Bill, I think you made an important point. There are many unanswered questions. The airport's authority need to, in a sense, come clean as well. But speaking of the airline, the Jeju Airline CEO has said that the airline takes full responsibility for the tragedy, but that's not enough given the fact that, 179 people have died in this tragedy.
Yeah, this is a serious incident. These were Koreans, many of whom are coming back from holidays, vacations in Bangkok, Thailand, and you have a lot of upset people here that will demand answers. Right now, we have a strange situation with South Korea's government. There's a lot of people in very senior acting positions because of the political turmoil as laid out in your report. However, I think it's fair to say at this point that authorities are doing everything they can so far to ensure that the aviation system is safe. The acting president today ordered a review of South Korea's entire aviation system. We'll see what is the result of that. But at this point, all I can say is that authorities are treating this very seriously, and we know very little about what caused this accident so far.
Absolutely. And my last question to you, Bill, as much as it's about, the investigation which has been ordered by the Thailand administration, it's also about the human angle of the story, given the fact that 179 lives have been lost. I mean, we saw all those reports of how family members completely devastated and unimaginably so. But, what you're picking up is that outrage, anger against the airlines, and, what you're picking up as far as, the bodies are concerned. Have they reached the families?
They're still in the process of sort of identifying all the bodies. This was a gruesome scene. The reports that have come out, from that site have been quite tragic and ugly, to be honest. I mean, this was a plane that you can see there in the video. It did not remain together. It exploded in a ball of flames. The reports have indicated that many of the passengers were actually thrown from the plane. I think that sort of complicated both the rescue effort and then the collection of these bodies once they were found to be deceased. So there is a lot of anger. There's also a lot of anger because at least some of these passengers apparently were communicating with family and friends on the ground. One Korean media outlet, in fact, reported that someone on that plane said, "We see a bird stuck in the wing. It seems we're going to have difficulty landing, and these may be my final words." In fact, that was his final words. And many tragic stories coming out right now from this incident.
Absolutely, Bill. Thanks very much for being with us. I think you described it well. What an absolutely gruesome tragedy there. 179 people dying in what has been South Korea's worst ever airline disaster.